Imagine if you were walking on the beach at night and heard a screaming voice coming from afar. Did you look in front of you? I found an old ship walking in the fog, but there was no human being in it, screaming, running, and waiting to watch the horror until it reaches you. In this episode, we will board ships together, but not any ships. These are ghost ships. I came back from the sea without a crew, hours without explanation, hours with voices from the other world, from ships that exploded by what was captured to those that disappeared, her crew, without a trace. The Flying Dutchman is the ship that has been destroying the world for centuries, and no one has been able to stop it until now. Tighten your belt and prepare your heart, because this journey is not like anything you have seen before. Let's start and see together the 10 most terrifying ghost ships that have appeared in history. And before we begin, let's pray for our master Muhammad. May God bless him and grant him peace. SS Baychimo, the ship that refused to sink. If you think that ghost ships appear once and disappear, then you still don't know the story of SS Baychimo, the ship that lived alone in the middle. For 38 years, the story began in 1931 when this merchant ship was operating in northern Canada. But one day, it was trapped in the snow and the weather became very dangerous. The crew decided to leave it and walk and said to him, "That's it sank." But no, it did not sink or anything. Every now and then, someone sees it floating in Al Jarid, other than the crew of its ship walking alone in the fog and snow, as if it was spinning around its owners. Between 1931 and 1969, people who lived on the coasts reported about its youth, but every time they went around it. The year 1969 was the last time anyone saw it. From then on, it disappeared forever. There was no wreckage, no trace, or any evidence. It even existed. People kept asking, was this a ship or a ghost? There is still no cattle in the newspaper. So far, we are waiting. The ship whose crew disappeared, as if the earth swallowed them in 2003, a ship 6. Its name was, it went out on a very normal trip like any ship that wanted to make a living in the depths of the sea, but this time the trip was not normal at all. Days after its launch, the ship suddenly disappeared. There was no call to signal a distress call, not even any response from the crew, and after weeks of silence, the ship suddenly appeared floating in the Australian Sea alone. Surprisingly, there was no one on it or a captain. No crew, no human creature. But the story did not stop here. The fuel is still there, the catch is still stored, the cooking and eating tools are in place, even the chairs are arranged, meaning it is as if they disappeared in a second without even taking what they need. There are people who said it was a piracy operation. You talked about a mutiny on the ship, but there's no evidence of anything. The strange thing is that today, no one knows where the crew went, nor even the sea. The body of one of them returned and left us with a mystery. Are they lost, or did the sea choose to take them with it forever? Gian Samer, the ship that came out of nowhere in 2006, the Australian Coast Guard, they found a huge ship quietly floating in the Gulf of Carpentaria. It looked suspicious. No flag, no clear name, no any. The ship was abandoned, but the strange thing is that there is no sign of an accident or attack, and the engines are clear that it had been stopped for a while and there was a large amount of rotten rice in it, as if it was on its way to transport a shipment, and the Coast Guard did not complete it. They tried to find any evidence linking this ship to any country or company, but there is no name, papers, or even a maritime record, which means that in Arabic, a ship rising from underground, or from another world. Some suggested that it was a supply ship for another fishing boat and that it broke from the rope and drifted alone, but this is just a guess. To this day, no one knows where Janseng came from. Where did she go, or who did she follow? After the investigation, the ship was deliberately sunk so that it would not remain a navigational hazard. But this opened the door to another question, and most importantly, how many other ships like the Gyan-Sing travel at sea and no one knows anything about them? Lyubov Orlova was a ghost ship that was a zombie-poor livestock. This story really needs a hard heart. At first, the Lyubov Orlova was just a stylish Soviet ship. Tourists are on luxury trips to the North Pole, ice, and the Pacific Ocean. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the ship was closed and remained abandoned in a Canadian port for years after 2000, and it continued to crumble. They decided to tow it to another country so that it would disintegrate and be cut into scrap. But while on the way, disaster occurred. The ropes were cut. Due to a storm, the ship escaped alone in the Atlantic Ocean, and from that moment on, Lyubov Orlova officially became a ghost ship roaming without a crew. Where is the terror? Just wait. The reports that came out after that were saying that there were thousands of rats inside the ship. There is no normal food. They eat each other. This is what the press called them, zombie rats, living on each other's flesh in complete darkness. Every now and then, news would come out that they appeared in a different place, but no one was able to actually reach her, as if she was enjoying escaping. The authorities said that she almost drowned in the ocean, but to this day there is no evidence of debris, no trace, not even a single mouse. Did he do it? Did you drown? I'm still floating in the fog. With her is the hungry oven army. Who knows? The love ship that became a curse in February 1748, and how many before Valentine's Day? One day, the British ship Lady Lovebond was sailing off the coast of England on a celebratory voyage. The captain Farhan returned to his country to marry his beloved, and the atmosphere was all love and joy. But love in the sea sinks quickly. The captain discovered a misfortune. It's in the middle of the ocean. His bride loves his dearest companion, which means betrayal on a boat. Isn't that enough? This is double betrayal. He lost his temper completely, and in a moment of rage and madness, he decided to make an ugly decision. He turned the rudder quickly, and when the ship was on a dangerous sandy shore, the result was the ship wrecked, and all those in it died. A tragic story that would have drowned in the sea of oblivion. But what happened after that? No, for 300 years. Very strange reports appeared from ship captains coming from the same area, saying that they were about to flounder in a ship that suddenly emerged from the fog, moving at a Juninian speed, and when they approached it, it disappeared as if there were no people there. They said they saw the ship. It fell on the shore, and when they went to rescue what was in it, there was nothing, debris, people, or any trace of a ship, and the most famous appearance of it was 50 years after the original accident. On a peaceful day, the residents of a coast saw a huge ship with 3 missiles moving quickly towards the sandy beach. People acted quickly and sent rescue teams immediately, expecting the accident, but when the boats arrived, there was no ship, crew, or any trace. It is as if a lobby fund is still floating in the sea, not to reach land, but to avenge betrayal. The Flying Dutchman belongs to the lakes. Prepare yourself. The legend remains from the depths of the Great Lakes in North America, the story of a ship that turned into a ghost that appears to this day. Suddenly, in the fog of November 1902, a Canadian freighter named the Bannockbeer was transporting grain across one of the most dangerous and largest of the Great Lakes. The voyage was supposed to remain normal, but suddenly the ship disappeared. There is no distress call and no remains, no bodies, not even a driftwood. Last time H. In it were cattle from a second ship beside it, and then it doesn't even exist. This is where the legend began. People living around the lake began to report that they saw an old ship in the fog, moving quickly and not responding to any call. When the ships tried to approach the ship, suddenly disappeared. One of the shortest famous stories is that there was a captain who saw it in 1940 and said that it was moving like a speck, but the wind was not moving in the same direction as if it were moving of its own volition. People began to call it the Dutchman. It belongs to a lake, and they launched it on ships that disappear and appear like ghosts in the sea. To this day, it still appears and disappears and remains one of the most famous mysterious phenomena of the Great Lakes. The question is, was it a drowning incident? Nor is there a curse to let this ship live in the time of the second terror ship SS Valencia, and the boats that returned from the world of death in 1906 were on a ship named SSS. Valencia was cattle on the coast of British Columbia in Canada with 108 passengers on board. Why was she trapped in a terrible storm? People tried to escape. The boats of success went down and the rescue center ran to help, but the end was tragic. 37 people. But they were the ones who survived, and the rest went to the depths of the sea. Everyone at that time said it was a sad incident and it ended, but no, the story has not yet begun at all since the year 1910, after 4 years. From the drowning, strange reports began to appear in the newspapers. The first of them was the Seattle Times. People who live on the coast and also fishermen in the sea say that they see lifeboats walking alone inside it. Adamia, people thought along the SS Valencia, and they said that these boats are a return from the other world and they are still trying to reach the shore, but the real horror is not coming in the year 1933. After 30 years, one of the original lifeboats, which is number 5, was received in the area of its name. The strange thing is that the boat was completely intact, not corroded, nor did there appear to be any trace of salts, sea or time, as if you had seen it from the factory yesterday, and after that they found the rest of the shipwreck about 2. Huge, a part of it about 100 feet deep into the ocean, but to this day no one understands how this boat fared. It remained safe amid the waves, cold waves and storms. All these years it was the sea. It was a protector for it, and there is no other secret inside this boat. No one knows. But what is certain is that a Frenchwoman did not drown alone and left behind us something returning to haunt the place. Sin Mouse Electro, the ship that disappeared. A human tragedy in the middle of the ocean. A strange, sad and full story. Question marks, not only. Lost? This is a man's dream turned into a nautical nightmare in 1968. A British journalist and inventor named Donald Crowhorse decided to participate in a global race. For the first time, he traveled around the world alone and without stopping, not a small yacht he called an electronic mouse. The man was not a professional sailor, but he was ambitious and convinced that the invention he made on the yacht would make him win. But from the first trip, things turned chaotic after departing England. Technical failures prevented repairs and completion of the journey, forcing a drastic decision. He began sending false reports about his location, as if everything was fine and he was continuing the journey, but in reality he was walking in circles in the middle of the ocean so as not to appear, and a few months when the second contestants began to arrive, Donald felt that the lie was over and would not be able to bear the pressure. Psychological. On the day the ship was seen floating in the Atlantic Ocean without a crew, what happened? The ship was intact. But the captain's notebook revealed everything, pages containing incomprehensible words and clear madness, and the last words were indicating that Donald committed suicide, and when he himself was in the sea. He turned into an electronic sheep, from a sailing yacht to a sad ship, testifying to the collapse of a human mind in the middle of the waves of the sea. The ship that returned without anyone, a true story and is not understood to this day. The ship that returned without anyone, a true story that is not understood to this day. In October 1955, the American ship Joyita was on a light commercial trip between the islands of the Pacific Ocean. She did not return. There was no signal, no distress call, not even wreckage. 5 weeks later, the ship was received floating on the surface of the ocean, more than 960 kilometers from the intended path on which she was walking. The surprises were terrifying. There was no one on it, the radio was broken, the food and equipment was still there. They found the doctor's bags with bandages and blood on them, and there was a strange smell in the place, like the smell of mold or even the smell of death. But there was no sign of violence. There was no evidence of a storm, an attack or a rebellion, but people disappeared in a year. 2 New Zealand researchers whose theory said that the ship had leaked water, and the water covered a large part of the motor. The crew thought that it was sinking by jumping into a lifeboat. But the surprise is that the ship was designed that it would not sink easily. I mean, if they had stayed in it, they could have survived. But the starboat was not found. Not even the passengers, not even the bodies. Since then, I have preferred Joyita, one of the biggest mysteries of the Pacific Ocean. And people are still asking, was it human error, not in a second power? I took them from the Dutch Flying Aid ship that never arrived. If we talk about ghost ships, the Flying Dutchman is the unrivaled crowned king, a terrifying legend revolving around a ship doomed to destroy the world forever without reaching Mina and without giving its crew comfort. They say that in the 17th century there was a stubborn captain named Bandar Deacon who was trying to cross the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, and at the height of the storm, all the sailors. But he spoke to our Lord, God forbid, and said, I will continue the journey even if I prefer to sail forever, and the punishment will come as much as I speak, eh? The ship was cursed and he controlled it. It preferred to sail forever amid the fog and wind without reaching a place from its time. Hundreds of sailors and passengers reported that they saw the Flying Dutchman, an old dilapidated ship walking in the middle of the storm with red lights emerging from it, and a ghost crew screaming as if they were. They want someone to save them, even Prince George? Britain later wrote in 1881 that he saw it with his own eyes during a cruise. People say that the ship appears to people who are nearing their end. It is an ominous sign, or it is a warning call from another world. Is it true? Is this just a hallucination in the middle of a storm? Is there really no ship that will pay its captain's pride to the end of time? So we have reached the end of our tour with the 10 most terrifying ghost ships in history, but before we close, tell us which ship caught your attention the most. The Flying Dutchman of the ship, whose passengers disappeared. Norferan, the zombies on the ship. The important thing is that the trip is over, but the mystery never ends. If you liked the episode, click like and subscribe to the channel to inform you of all our upcoming trips, and ring the bell so that you do not miss a story and temporary peace until we board the second mysterious ship in a sea of secrets. Hello.